We want them to not only serve the best burger, fries, and drinks, but we want them to do it in a way where our customers feel the difference. They feel that we care. So the loyalty goes both ways. Customers trust our brand because they know we're giving them the best.
Every business wants loyal customers, but real loyalty. It isn't just given, it's earned. And the best companies know exactly how to do it. Welcome to How Leaders Lead. I'm David Novak, and every week I have conversations with the very best leaders in the world to help you become the best leader you can be. My guest today is Lynsi Snyder, the owner and president of In-N-Out Burger. And if you know anything about In-N-Out, you know it's no ordinary food chain. They built an almost cult-like following, and in today's show, you're going to see how. And let me tell you, Lynsi's fresh approach to culture and people is a huge part of it. Because here's the thing, customer loyalty doesn't just happen. It starts with how you prioritize your customers in every decision. Also, if you work with a family, this is a must-watch episode. Because when business and family mix, things can get messy. And Lynsi's got some honest and hard-won wisdom on that front that you do not want to miss. So here's my conversation with my good friend and soon to be yours, Lynsi Snyder. You know, Lynsi, you've got a heck of a background, and you've done a great job at In-N-Out. And In-N-Out, for me, it's one of the concepts that I admire more than any in the world. But I'm almost positive you're the first guest on How Leaders Lead to be a fire eater. Yeah. How in the world did you get into that?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, but we have a thing called Club 48 that my family started, and it kind of died with them. And in 2009, I started it back up, and it was basically, back then, my dad and my uncle would take, the handful of upper management that there was back then, and they would take them to like Montana and go fishing and just have kind of a guys trip. And so lots of pranks and shenanigans, especially the new guys, they really got it and stuff. So I brought it back in 2009 and did it up at my dad's ranch, and we have a different theme each year. And so one year it was like this like kind of 1920s traveling circus thing where we actually had a full-blown circus out there. Like we had a camel, we had aerialists, we had fire dancers, we had different animals. And so it was incredible. Full-blown circus. So I'm like, we're not going to have this thing without me performing because I've got to entertain them, and this is too much fun. So I ended up doing a fire dance on point shoes, like in ballet point shoes. And that was the beginning of, my interest with fire dancing. And then of course, naturally you end up eating fire and
I've seen it. I've seen it on video, and you did it. You're very good at it too, but I got a kick out of it. It's great. And the other thing that I learned is that you actually love the smell of gasoline. What is there about car racing that really has maybe impacted the way how you lead today? Is there something that you've kind of brought to the business in terms of how you think or what you should try? Or
I don't know. I don't know if they really tie too much, but it was definitely, something that was in my family. My grandpa was a part owner of the original Irwindale Speedway and actually had, pretty much an In-N-Out there at the track. It was like the snack bar with burgers and stuff, but everyone knew it was basically like In-N-Out. So my dad grew up there, and he would wrench on cars and run his own cars at the track. And so, I grew up around the love of muscle cars and racing and stuff. So yeah, I don't know that it really ties other than we have a huge car culture because we're California's first drive-through. And, you see the old pictures of just amazing cars in the picture. It was just, those were just the daily cruisers back then. And you look and you're like, oh my goodness. So, so it's tradition for us to put, awesome cars on the t-shirts. And there's a very strong car culture, but I don't think that drag racing connects too much to my leadership, but I think people like it.
I can't wait to talk to you about what you're doing at In-N-Out, but first I want to take you back. And what's a story from your childhood, your early days that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
There's really something that my dad and my uncle was 18 months younger than my dad. There's something that both of them did with me from a very early age. And it was that they would have adult conversations with me as a child. And, they didn't talk to me like I was some little kid that didn't know, or, what they said didn't matter. They would ask me questions, and they would talk about real life things, business things. And it really made me feel valued. It made me feel like what I said mattered. And, they may not have known, obviously, that they were going to depart this world a lot earlier than most, but God knew. And, it's amazing to me that, they had those conversations with me. And then one day I would have to, run the company without them. But the fact that they instilled that, that what I said to them mattered, whether it be with business or whatever that we were talking about. I think it left an impact,
Absolutely. And your grandparents started the business in 1948. What's one of the earliest memories you have being inside the restaurant?
I just remember going through the drive-through, probably the 2 lanes, and getting my burger, and of course loving it. And a fun fact is, because of my family, we had our spread in our refrigerator at home, and my dad would barbecue the meat patties like side by side with steaks. And so we would get our steaks from the same, the butchers. We would get the cuts from our meat and stuff. And so, I can still remember exactly how my dad seasoned everything, and he would call them samples. So I would just be hanging around like a puppy by the barbecue, just waiting. And he would cut up some pieces and go, okay, you got to try them. Let me know. So I think that that's a cool memory for me, because it was kind of taking a piece of the restaurant, taking a piece of the business home, and being able to, have it right there. And not everybody had that. So it was cool.
Yeah, that's a little extra added benefit. That's fantastic. And you mentioned that unfortunately your dad and your uncle left this earth, way too early, and you became the owner of this iconic brand through personal tragedy. Really, I mean, for those who don't know your story, will you share a little bit about that part of your life?
Yeah. My dad was only 48 when he passed away. My uncle passed away 6 years before him. So I was 11 when my uncle died in a plane crash. And I was currently living in Northern California with my dad and my mom. And we lived in Shingletown, California. Tiny, tiny, tiny town. And my dad had basically made the decision to move my mom and I up there and just do the family thing, live on a ranch. And him and my uncle kind of would bicker and have probably some normal brother stuff, but because it's brother stuff and it's business, and what their dad would want, and maybe disagreements there. I think my dad was very old school and wanted to stick with tradition. And my uncle was kind of like, okay, let's go. Let's be, let's have this many stores by this time, and let's lease more than buy. And my dad was of a different mindset, more like my grandfather. So my dad basically said okay, you do this. I'm moving the family here. I'm choosing my family. And so it was a really, really good thing for a long time. But when my uncle died, that kind of set my dad into a spiral, and he relapsed and started using again. He was using prescription pills. Now, mind you, he had broken his back, he'd paralyzed his arm from a motorcycle accident, so he had actual physical things, but he got addicted, and then it was just too easy to numb the pain of kind of unresolved stuff between him and his brother. And his brother was really the only other one that understood what they went through in their childhood. My grandfather sadly was abusive because he was abused severely as a child. Um, so, there was a lot there. And my dad just, it was a lot of pain. Losing his baby brother and them not being on great terms when it happened was tough.
So here you are then, I guess around 17 years old, right? And what was that like when it finally dawned on you that, geez, this is my company now?
Well, it was a little slower. So yeah, my dad finally lost his battle to drugs when I was 17. And at that point, yeah, it was all the things that I was thinking of doing in school just kind of went to the side. And the company part, there were trustees. My brother-in-law was one of them. And it was really kind of baby steps into it, honestly. I moved down south. My grandma was still alive, so I worked in donations and would try to procure donations for the foundation, so for the charity stuff we did. And and then I went back into the store because I worked in the store when I was 17 as well, up in Reading. And so I was trying to learn all the things in the store. And then it was in 2006 that my grandmother died. And at that point I was pregnant with twins. And they asked me, they're like, do you want to do this? And I'm thinking, well, my uncle was 24 when my grandpa died and he took over. But I'm like, I am about to have my first kids, not one, but two at a time. So I'm like, no, this is not the time. So I waited actually. And I waited till 2010. And so 2010, now you're talking about the increments of how much ownership there was and all of that. But by that point, I had already managed our merchandise and catalog department, which was kind of like a little business within the business with all of our merchandise and our store that sold merch. So that was actually really fun. I did that for a couple of years, and then I went and worked in almost every single department of the company, which was really, really fun. Accounting, not that fun. But there were lots of departments that were fun. I got my forklift certification. I did drywall with the carpentry department and the graveyard shift. I did a lot of really fun stuff and got to meet people that worked for the company for a long time. So it was a special season for sure. And course, went back into the stores again and made sure to cover all the positions that I hadn't worked. And yeah.
So you were I believe 27 years old when you became president of the company. And I remember when I was coming up in PepsiCo, I was a little bit different. That was sort of a blue suit and white shirt and red tie culture, and I couldn't be caught dead without my shirt tail tucked out and the wrong color tie. I just was kind of a duck out of water, but I found a way to create my own identity. You come up in a family business. How hard was it for you to really forge your own identity and be Lynsi and have everybody see you as the president?
It was interesting. I'm not very tall. I'm blonde. And there was a time there where I was trying to maybe dress the part. Like I would get some business suits and dress differently. But then I finally just found, I'm like, you know what? This is a family business. My uncle wanted to dress up. My dad wanted to dress down. I'm like, I think I'm just going to do what I feel comfortable with. And I'm going to encourage the same. So we kind of brought a more casual work environment to our offices. And it's not the outside, right? It's the inside. And so we want our people to be happy. We want our people to know that we're all going towards the same thing. We want to take care of our customers. And whether we're in the store, handing the customer their order, or we're behind the scenes, making things right for our customer, I just want people to know that they're cared for, that they're loved, and that we're giving them this opportunity to do this in a fun way, And so I think I just started kind of connecting my identity really in this world first with God. And then from there, it just brought me to a place where I didn't really care what people thought. Like, I don't care if you feel like I should dress up. I don't feel that I need to try to please everyone. What you see is what you get. And hopefully, what I'm about, and that I really love people and want to hold things to a standard that my family would be proud.
Well, you've certainly done that because everybody continues to rave about In-N-Out, and everybody continues to talk about your product. And you mentioned that you were the very first drive-through, and then but when I think of In-N-Out, I think of just out and out brilliant execution. You make the best burger, fresh cut fries, great shakes. You don't have a lot of variety in your menu. How have you managed the challenge of doing the basics better than anybody, which you're known for, and then innovating?
Yeah, I think somewhere there's that saying, keep it simple, stupid. I think it's like, I don't want to veer from what my family started. I want to hold true to the things that brought us to where we are today. And, the bigger we get, of course, the more intentionality and time and, focus we have to put into it. But it really is about serving the best quality and service with a smile, and treating our customers like they're our guests, and remembering that they are the ones that sign our paycheck, that we say that here at In-N-Out, because it's our customers that have brought us over 75 years of business and have allowed us to open in other markets and grow to where we are today. So there's a lot of gratitude we have towards our customers. So with that, it's like, I run all the decisions that we make through this filter of, what would my family want? What would they do? Is this something that they would be okay with? Or is it like, nah, we're not doing that, So I feel like that's a great process for me, because it does keep me of, kind of a traditional mindset where we're not looking at all the new bells and whistles or things others are doing, but really trying to, be.
Well, you mentioned that your grandfather and your father were pretty conservative, and you had your uncle who was more of a swashbuckler, wanting to grow faster. You got a great concept. You print money. I mean, anybody would look at your balance sheet and the unit economics of In-N-Out would say, "Oh my God, they should be growing like just growing like leaps and bounds." You're growing. You're on a consistent basis, but you're not going crazy on new unit growth. How have you balanced that? And do you see yourself turning more into your uncle down the road, or sticking more like your dad and grandfather?
Yeah, definitely more like my dad and my grandfather. It's funny because I think sometimes people's perceptions, because we might be in a new market or a new state, they go, "Oh, they're opening all over." And it's like, no, we're really not. Like, if you look at where our warehouses are, because we can only go as far as the few warehouses we have can reach. So if we've got a truck driving, X amount of hours to this market out here, well, it makes sense that they would go to another market that's close to that, either on the way or somewhere out there, because if they're going to drive all that way, it makes sense to deliver product to another store out there. And so that's, there's a lot of strategic planning and looking at those markets. But it's not something that we, lose sight of and think we're just going to grow. Like it's a pretty calculated growth rate. And there's times where we're not hitting the amount of stores we planned on opening, and we're okay with it. We're okay with it. And even so, there's been times where we're like, hey, you know what? We're going to slow down. We're not going to worry about opening this many stores this year because we really want to focus and fine tune some of the things that we know are so important. And we want to just make sure that with our growth that, that is right where it should be. So we're definitely not afraid to slow down and just make sure if there's a tune-up that needs to take place where everyone knows like, whoa, they're not opening those 2 or 3 stores this year because, we really need to refocus and make sure that we're not forgetting that the bun toast, is supposed to be this way because Harry wanted it that way, and having that consistency out there.
Hey everyone, it's Kula. We'll get back to the interview in just a second. Before we do though, I have a question for you. Have you downloaded the How Leaders Lead app on your iPhone? If you haven't, take 20 seconds right now, go to the App Store, search for How Leaders Lead, and download the How Leaders Lead app. In the app, every day, you'll get a 2-minute video that'll give you a leadership insight from one of our amazing guests from our podcast to inspire you and to really get your mind in the right place before you start your workday. So go to the App Store, search How Leaders Lead, download the How Leaders Lead app, and start your day every day with 2 minutes of leadership wisdom. It'll take 20 seconds. Go to the App Store, download the app. And you'll be able to watch every day, just like me, the leadership insight from How Leaders Lead.
As you moved into the president role, do you recall a decision that you made that really gave you confidence that you were up for the job itself? I mean, was there sort of a pivot point where you said, hey, you know what? I've got this.
There's actually a lot. And, it's not because of me. I honestly feel like God just put stuff on my heart at times. And whether it be one thing that felt like turning a ship around, which took some time, and that was really coming from a place of servant leadership versus task and, dictator and, putting the task before the people. Now, we've always said we care about our in and out family, but I think that even my grandfather, my dad, my uncle, like my uncle was super charismatic. Out of the three of them, he was the most charismatic, empowering leader. My grandpa was, he was stern, he was passionate. The two together, it was like he was a hard worker, very hard worker. He was probably the one that, got his hands the dirtiest and built, he built it up, but my grandmother was the nurturer. She was, very sweet and loving and cared about everyone. And she was the one that brought the hugs and remembering people's, their kids' names and all of that. And my dad was very much the humble leader that wanted everyone to feel like they mattered, whether they were in the store or whether they were in the warehouse. They all mattered. And he had a huge heart for the people that maybe didn't get as much attention, kind of the underdogs. And he was also a stickler for quality. So he was matched with his dad with quality. And for me, I love, my mom and others have said, you're really a mix of all of them. And I like that because I love all of them very much. And I'd love to think that I have pieces of all of them, but shifting us into a servant leadership type of, leadership for all of our people was a big undertaking. And that was something that like I said, it wasn't flipping a switch. It was turning a ship around, and it took.
That's really interesting, Lynsi, because from the outside, what I would surmise about In-N-Out and what, everybody I know in the industry thought about In-N-Out was that your culture has always been incredible. And that, that servant leadership would have been like, the number one thing that would be driving that. But you're saying that wasn't the case. And as a leader, that was maybe one of the biggest moves that you made so do you think the culture's been enhanced then because of your leadership?
Hands down. And I don't like tooting my own horn or anything like that. But if you did ask people that were around for, the years to see, my uncle, my dad, their time, even my grandpa's time and on, that would be something that they would definitely attribute to my leadership changing.
What specific steps did you take to really make that a reality? Because it's one thing to say it, it's another to have people really feel it and do it.
One was just me being very vulnerable and being open and sharing, talking about weaknesses and strengths. Us doing Strengths Finder, personality tests, all those, the way the world sees you, the DISC, we've done so many. Our training department does a lot with management. And so from doing that and me sharing very early on, like, here's what I struggle with, here's what I am good at. Here's what I struggle with. What about you? And us just bringing those things to the surface and then saying, okay, how can we communicate with others? Because the way that your style of communication and receiving a message might not be the same for this guy over here. So it was really having that wear different hats with different people and knowing that, anytime you're putting the task before the person, you're not fostering a culture of care. You're just not. And if this is a family, it's like, I can say that my grandpa and my dad and uncle grew up in a dysfunctional family, God bless them, but they did. And, so yelling and, some of those things could have been normal. And so there was a lot of years where divisional managers or managers might have yelled at someone in a case of discipline. So it was a lot of working on that too, like how we're going to discipline and not just the discipline, but coaching them. And if you're just handing out one write-up after the other, there's something wrong with you, not them. We're not doing it right if they continue to get in trouble, because that means we're not teaching them or whatever we're teaching, we're not doing it in a way where they're receiving it. And so we've done a lot on communication. We've done a lot on care. We have broken down servant leadership for sure, where that's, wanting to lift others up to be in an even better place than where you are. What could someone have done to make you better back when you were in their place, So there's a lot. I mean, I could probably spend an hour just going into all the different workshops and things that we've done, but it's really us highlighting the person, a little bit of the golden rule in there. There's a lot of biblical principles we have incorporated in our workshops and offsite meetings. So, yeah.
One of the things that, anybody knows if they look at In-N-Out as your customers, they don't just love you. They really love you. And, what do you think is the key to you fostering the kind of loyalty you have that gets you these raving fans?
Oh, man. Well, I think part of it is, we're loyal to the customer. We are not cutting corners. We're not compromising. Food costs go up. We deal with it. We don't look for something cheaper. We kind of just, we deal with it and obviously see things that, other people might do to mitigate that loss. And we we shoulder it because we're not going to compromise and we're not going to change things in that way. We're going to keep the best quality. We're going to, pay our people more because we're asking more of them than other places. We want them to not only serve the best burger, fries, and drinks, but we want them to do it in a way where our customers feel the difference. They feel that we care. They feel that we know they're the reasons we're getting paid. So the loyalty goes both ways. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think the customers trust our brand because they know we're not doing what everyone else is doing, and we're not giving them a lesser product. We're giving them the best.
Your customer insiders, they're well aware of the secret menu. Tell us what that's all about.
The secret menu, it has really morphed, I think, because of the probably the online situation, social media, all of that. It's just blown up, over the last 20 years. But some of the things on the secret menu started way, 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 way back, and animal style was one of them.
Animal style? What the hell is animal style?
Yeah, animal style, you can request with any of the burgers, whether it's hamburger, cheeseburger, double meat. It's fried mustard into the patty. So as you put the patty down, you season it, and then the mustard swirl goes on the top. And then so when you turn it over, it just kind of cooks into it. It's tasty. And then also comes with grilled onions, extra spread, pickles, and yeah, I mean it's pretty popular.
Animal style. What's another example of the secret menu?
Protein style. That's without the bun. It's just wrapped in lettuce. There's one that I don't do because I don't like tomatoes, but it's tomato wrap. So instead of the bun, it's whatever burger you choose, could even be animal style, but it's 2 slices of tomato and then that's wrapped.
Oh, I love it. So
Yeah.
you get a little, you figure out what you can do if you go there a lot. But meanwhile, we're going to keep serving those burgers and fries and shakes as fast as we can.
Yep.
I'd have to imagine you have a lot of debates internally, and I'm sure you get customer feedback as well, pushing you for mobile ordering. And as I understand it, that's not something that you're doing at this stage. What's your thought process? And tell us about is there a debate going on internally, or is it just something that you're just not going to do?
Of course, I can see why people would want it. I can totally understand that. But the thing with In-N-Out is the experience and face-to-face with our associates, whether you're in your car or you're walking up, is part of who In-N-Out is. And if we take away that interaction in there, we're now not giving them the full In-N-Out experience. And so our customers, though some of them might really want that, it's just an area that we don't want to compromise. We don't want to let go, because we're compromising for what? The speed, for, to get it out there faster. And it's like, we're already trying to do it fast.
Another thing that you haven't changed from the beginnings is that you have Bible verses on your packaging. Give me an example how faith plays a role in how you lead.
Yeah. So my uncle put the first Bible verses in the late 80s before he passed away, actually. He became a Christian, and my grandma was always a believer. My grandpa accepted Jesus on his deathbed. My dad was a believer, just, struggled, obviously, with substance abuse. So it was very hard because he had a lot of guilt, but they all, thank God, we're all believers. And so for me, I was raised in it, and, had my own struggles with, the divorces and all of that. And it was just tough, but my faith was always there. And so I added, quite a few verses to different packaging. I think the first one I added was to the fry boat. And that one tied pretty closely to some of the stuff I'd gone through. And so if someone's listening, you got to check out What's Under the Fry Boat and go read it, because you'll understand when you know a little bit about my testimony. But yeah, I mean, there's another one on the water cup that actually ties to water. And, there's others that are just, in different things, but there's a message that's just very powerful in each one of them. And I think it's one of those things where my uncle said, we're a Christian company, we're private, we're a family company, and this is just an expression of who we are and his faith. And, it's underneath, it's kind of hidden. So it's not out in people's faces, like, making them read it as they're taking a bite or drinking. But if they want to know, they can look it up.
Lynsi, do you pray on the decisions that you make? Or again, is there an time when you prayed on something that you did something maybe differently than you were going to do the first time?
Yeah, for sure.
Could you tell a story about that?
One of the things I think I've shared quite a bit, and it's just something that was something that God made so clear. And it was, my husband and I were going to start Slave to Nothing, and we didn't have the name yet, but we knew that we were going to fight substance abuse. He lost a brother to drugs. I lost a father. Since then, he lost another brother. It's just heartbreaking, but we really wanted to fight that and have a foundation to, help other families and save lives. So it was in that we're praying, and God just like dropped it on me and said, "You're going to fight human trafficking." And I'm like, "What?" And I didn't even know that much about it, honestly. I had very little exposure to it. And so at that point, I jumped in and we just started finding out a lot. We randomly got connected with a couple different people that had foundations fighting trafficking. And then it was just like, okay, this is what we're doing, and then the name came to us that it was Slave 2, the number 2, nothing. And the 2 represents the fact that we're fighting 2 different things, both substance abuse and human trafficking. Yeah. And both are things that people are enslaved to. The drugs get a hold of someone and really doesn't want to let go until they're dead, unless there's something that breaks that chain. And then with trafficking, the same thing. These people are enslaved to a person, and they really feel like there isn't a way out. So we want to be the ones to break those chains. And
well, that's great that you're using your resource to tackle those 2 big issues, and so good for you for doing that. We'll be back with the rest of my conversation with Lynsi Snyder in just a moment. As Black History Month comes to a close, I'm reflecting on what legendary Condoleezza Rice had to say about growing up in segregated Birmingham, and the tremendous insight this is for any leader.
I tell my students to this day, if you're trying to be twice as good, you will work twice as hard. You will therefore be twice as confident and twice as prepared. And then they said, there are no victims. You may not be able to control your circumstances, but you can control your response to your circumstances. And if you consider yourself a victim, then you have given control of your life to somebody else. Those 2 lessons I took with me, that it was a kind of armor in their way of preparing us for what they thought was likely to be a very hostile world for a long time to come. Now, as it turned out, we had the great civil rights legislation. We've made a lot of progress, but still, that if there's a barrier, you go around it, over it, or through it, but you don't let it stop you. I learned that in circumstances of segregated Birmingham, and I'm grateful because I took those lessons into life with me.
Go back and listen to my entire conversation with Condi, episode 121, here on How Leaders Lead. You've got this company. You have over 400 stores now. You are growing at a pretty steady rate. But you're getting bigger. How do you keep the big company small?
Yeah, that is something I just spoke with our regional managers today about. That is the challenge each and every year. That I'm just always thinking of how we can make people feel family, have them feel like invested as if they're, cousins of Harry and Esther, sons, daughters, relatives, whatever, that they're a part of this and that it's something that they can be proud of. And we tell our managers to have an owner's mindset. And we want them to know that they're empowered to take care of the customer, not just the managers, but our associates. We truly empower them to do whatever is necessary to take care of our customers. And, in all of that, whether it's training, whether it's, a store meeting, we have Burger Television, which is the way that we communicate with all associates, over 40,000 associates each period. I'm on all of those, giving some sort of message or encouragement or highlighting something going on. They're anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. And it has any kind of news within the company, shows a new store opening. We'll focus on different training things, just kind of, we'll go over a lot of the same stuff over and over because it's that repetition that sinks it in for everyone. Yeah, it's, we have a lot of events too. We have sporting events. We have company picnics. Our band plays at some of those company picnics and events. And we have community engagement where we do volunteer stuff to help the communities, some of the foundations that we support. So there's a lot of stuff to really bring people together. And we're very intentional with our leaders to bring people in and make them feel like family. So, I couldn't do it alone. It really, it's really because of the awesome leaders we have here, all being behind that vision and us partnering together.
You want to create this family feel, yet you got to make tough decisions at times. And, you mentioned like the mobile order and you said, well, that got a quick no. And I kind of got the sense that you gave it the quick no. How do you think about the need as a leader to create emotional distance from your people so that you can make tough calls? What's your thinking about emotional distance?
I don't think I entertain it.
Okay, well, that's fine. Some people think that they really can't get close to their people because if they get close to their people will take advantage of them or they won't be able to make the tough decision that you got to make. I mean, how do you think about that? I'm
a pretty tough person. Now, not going to say that I don't get surprised at times or, there's definitely been fair share of betrayal and stuff like that, but I'm not going to let the few people that screw me over change the positive and connected, close relationships I could have with all the good ones. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that warning label, like, the plastic bag, don't put this over your head, blah, 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 because someone did it, whatever the thing is, you read the warning, you're like, really? Seriously? So for me, it's kind of like that. It's like, I'm not, because there are some that will take advantage or hurt me, I'm not going to make everyone else miss out on what we could have.
Makes sense. And, this has been so much fun, Lynsi, and I want to have a little bit more of you. I always do this lightning round of questions. So are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay. The 3 words that best describe you.
Honest, loving, bold.
If you could be one person for a day besides yourself, who would it be?
No one.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Unwashed hands.
Who would play you in a movie?
Maybe Rachel McAdams. I don't know.
What's something you'd only know about In-N-Out as the owner of the company?
Just how many things I do and deal with.
What was the price of the very first hamburger at In-N-Out back in 1948?
25 cents.
If you could be the bassist in any band, who are you going with?
I'd say Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
What is your hidden talent?
Hidden. I can write backwards. I'm ambidextrous. I don't know.
What's the one thing you do just for you?
I get regular massages.
Your most prized possession?
My family.
If I turned on the radio in your car, what would I hear?
A lot, but no country.
What's one of your daily rituals, something that you never miss?
Pretty much putting my makeup on.
All right, that's the end of the lightning round. And I got a few more questions and we'll wrap this up. You wrote a book last year called The In and Outs of In-N-Out Burger. And a lot of people, who've navigated everything that you've navigated, you wouldn't be so open about it. What made you be so vulnerable to share all the ins and outs of your company?
Like, as you talk about the loyalty with our customers, there's been a lot of people trying to tell the in and out story for years, and they just get it so wrong. There was a book that tried to tell the in and out story, and that just pissed me off, to be honest, because there were so many inaccuracies, lies, and just I'm like, who is she to tell this story anyway? So I think it had. It just had this sense of it's time. It's time to tell the in and out story. And it just felt right. And, I wanted our customers, because a lot of our customers feel like they're a part of it. They've been going since this long, and they went to this store back then, and we only had this many. And so there's a very nostalgic feel, I think, with In and Out. And I just felt like we kind of owed it to our customers to give it to them. And
what do you think you uncovered or brought up that everybody else who'd try to write about In and Out had missed?
A lot of the personal stuff. There were things that were painting my dad a certain way, and I was really able to share who he is, who he was as a person and a father, and some of the drama in the family, some of the abuse. And I share this stuff because I feel very free and healed through what I've been through. And that's all attributed to God. And I want people to know that that's there for them, and they don't have to hide the dirt. I feel like when you hide that stuff, there's shame associated with it. There's fear associated with it. And I want to be as fearless as possible and want people to be free.
You talked about your father and your family, and you're a mom. You're a mom with 4 kids. How has that impacted the way you show up as a leader?
There are a lot of things in parenting that I've been able to correlate with teaching, some of our leaders. Kind of how I shared wearing different hats. All 4 of my kids are totally different. So, customizing my approach, talking to one of them, discipline with one of them, that totally, there's a parallel with working with people here at In and Out, and being able to see, like, look, as soon as you come at this person this way, they're shutting down. This person is so stubborn and hard-headed. If you don't come off, direct and deal with it, and then stay alongside, or whatever. There's so many things I can find that connection.
Lynsi, last question here. What's one piece of advice you'd give to anyone who wants to be a better leader?
Lonely at the top is a lie, because you're only lonely at the top if you're isolating yourself. And I choose to not isolate myself. I open up and stay pretty connected to people in ministry, but also here at work. And because of that, I don't feel lonely,
That's great. Lynsi, I want to congratulate you on continuing to take In and Out to higher levels. I used to be in the restaurant business myself for quite a while, and people would say, "Would you ever acquire In and Out?" And I said, "No possible way. We'd only screw it up. The culture they have, what they have, it's just it's in a bottle." And anybody that screws them up and tries to take it national won't be able to do it. And because you have that formula, and you've perpetuated it. And congratulations on the job you're doing, and keep up the good work. I always love going to In and Out when I'm out in your neck of the woods.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
In and Out has the kind of customer loyalty most businesses only dream about. But like Lynsi says, loyalty goes both ways. If you want loyal customers, it starts with your loyalty to them. When you're making decisions, when you're setting priorities, make sure you're putting your customers' interests first. For In and Out, that means refusing to cut corners on ingredients and even saying no to ideas like mobile ordering so they don't compromise the overall experience. But what does it mean for you? Take a look at one business decision you're making right now. big or small. Then ask yourself, how does this impact your customer? Are you making the easy choice or the choice that earns their trust? Let me tell you, when you prioritize customers, they notice. And in return, they reward you with trust, enthusiasm, and lifelong loyalty. So do you want to know how leaders lead? What we learned today is that great leaders understand that customer loyalty is a two-way street. Coming up next on How Leaders Lead is Glenn Fogel, CEO of Booking Holdings, which includes Booking.com, Kayak, Priceline, and OpenTable.
For many years, we've been an ad in the Super Bowl for our Booking.com company. I just recently got the most recent one that is being looked at for the upcoming game and all that. And they say, what do you think? And I always say, it doesn't matter what I think. It's irrelevant. It's what have you come up with? And is this worth the money to spend on it, or should we sell the stock or not? I mean, it's nice for you to ask me, but what the heck do I know?
So be sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss it. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of How Leaders Lead, where every Thursday you get to listen in while I interview some of the very best leaders in the world. I make it a point to give you something simple on each episode that you can apply to your business so that you will become the best leader you can be.